everyone, welcome to this CoGrader tutorial where I am going to walk you through how I use CoGrader when my students are working on a narrative piece of writing. In this case, my students are working on building suspense in a piece of short fictional writing. The assignment is to write a short story that includes a lot of suspense. However, they also need to include a few other elements in that story. They need to make sure they have logical organization with paragraph breaks. They need to have it well organized with a logical flow. They need to include some dialogue, so have their characters say a few words, and they also need to show that they are building suspense or adding tension to their writing based on the lessons that we have done in class. So what I do with CoGrader is I put in all of that information into my assignment, as you all know how to do, and then when I get the feedback for the students, of course I'm going to go through, read what is here, and then add anything that I want to add or take away anything that I don't want to include in this feedback that the students will get. Of course, what I love about this is it really focuses on my assignment goals, and it says, hey, here's what you're doing really well on, tied to my assignment goals. Here are ways that you can grow, again, tied to my assignment goals. I want to zoom in really quickly on exactly what CoGrader is pointing out in my students' writing and show you what I really like about it and show you what I would change. So down here in my rubric, the part that talks about incorporating dialogue in a way that advances the story and reveals character. This feedback that CoGrader gave says that the student, rightly, did not include any dialogue in their story. What I really like about this feedback is two things. Number one, it specifically highlights a passage where the student did not use any dialogue. And then it says, hey, here's a way that you can include dialogue. For example, Silas, the protagonist, could have a conversation with a neighbor that was mentioned, or the mysterious voice that the character is hearing. So not only do I love that CoGrader picked up on number one, that there was no dialogue in the story and there needed to be. Number two, CoGrader had a specific place where dialogue would have been really helpful. And then number three, then CoGrader gives a specific example of where dialogue would have enhanced this writing. So I absolutely love this feedback. I would not change it at all. One thing that I would change about the feedback is in the summary, it says, overall, you created a suspenseful atmosphere with vivid sensory details, but the plot could be more cohesive. So I totally agree with all of that. I think that's a great overview of what the student did well with and what the student needs to work on. This last sentence, I don't love. I trust you can do better if you put in the effort. As a teacher, I don't really like to talk about the effort a student puts in because I really don't know their level of effort, right? That is such an internal thing. But what I will do here is I like that I trust you can do better. And I'm going to change put in the effort to I trust you can do better if you apply the lessons we learn during small group instruction. So then the student knows when they're pulled over to the small group instruction, whatever skill I'm teaching or I'm reinforcing in that small group, then the student's like, okay, I need to apply this lesson to my building suspense writing because that is what the feedback in CoGrader said. Now, the point at which students get this feedback from CoGrader is when they are in the middle of writing. So it's not going to be the first day or maybe not even the second day. But once I know they have a significant amount of writing that they have already created, then I will have CoGrader go in and give them this feedback. Now, I am also reading their writing, but I can't read as fast as CoGrader can. I like to use this when we are in the middle of a writing cycle because then students can see, okay, what areas do they need a little bit of help with? What areas do they need to work on? Do they need to pay more attention to before I give them their summative grade? Now, I really like this because students can look at this and see exactly what they need, right? But I also want to know, what are the kids working on? Of course, I am also reading their writing, but I want to know what is the specific thing they are going to improve before they say they are finished with their story. So what I have started to do is I have the students look at these think about it questions. These, of course, are the questions that are tied to the areas where the student can grow. I then have a Google form and it looks like this. It is called Suspense Narrative Writing Goal. Once they get their feedback from CoGrader, then I have them go into this Google form. They copy and paste one think about it question right here, so I know what the question is. Then down here, they will write 2 specific steps that they will take to address the question. Now, of course, with a Google form, what is fantastic is you can export all of their answers into a sheet, and then I can quickly look at it and see, okay, here's what this student is working on, and here's the steps they're going to take. Of course, what I then can notice is if a student knows what they need to work on, but they're not so sure about the steps they need to take, I can intervene in there and help support them. What I often do is I have this spreadsheet printed out because I love paper and pen. And when I'm conferencing one-on-one with students during the writing process, I'm looking at, okay, what is the think about it question you are working on? And let's take a look at that together. When students are finished with their writing, they think they have written a very suspenseful story with all of the things that my assignment has required, then I will give them a grade based on the rubric, but I'm also going to be looking at what is that think about it question that they have really focused on in their writing, and that's going to be a completely separate comment on their rubric where I will be able to say, okay, here's the thing you said you were going to work on, and wow, look how much you improved. Great focus, excellent work using CoGrader's feedback to improve your writing in a very tangible way. So that is how I use CoGrader when my students are working on a piece of narrative writing. It is a really effective way to get kids to actually read and be invested in this amazing feedback that they're getting. And it also helps you target exactly what each and every student needs to be working on. So I hope you give it a try.